You just ate lunch a few hours ago. Tonight you'll sit down for dinner, probably around the same time you did yesterday and the day before that. Nobody taught you this rhythm. You picked it up without ever asking why. In northern Tanzania, a community called the Hadza still hunts and forages for nearly everything they eat. Anthropologist Frank Marlowe spent years studying them, and he found something strange to outside eyes. The Hadza rarely eat in fixed sittings. They graze on berries in the morning, share a kill when one comes in, and sometimes go a full day on almost nothing. 3 o'clock meals mean nothing to them. So where did our version come from? Go back roughly 7,000 years to the early farming villages of the Yellow River Valley in China. Once grain could be stored, families started eating on a schedule tied to the harvest and the workday, not to hunger alone. Records from the Han Dynasty around 200 BCE describe 2 daily meals for most peasants, one in the late morning, one before sunset. Emperors and nobles could afford 4. Centuries later in Christian Europe, monasteries pushed eating in a different direction. The Rule of St. Benedict, written around 530 CE, told monks to eat once a day for much of the year, later than noon, treating food almost like a distraction from prayer. Ordinary parishioners followed a softer version of the same idea. Eating before morning mass was considered improper, so a real breakfast barely existed for most of the Middle Ages. Even the word dinner gives away the shift. It comes from the Old French disner, meaning to break an overnight fast. For centuries, dinner was eaten at midday, not at night. It slid toward evening because of candlelight and class. At the court of Louis XIV in the late 1600s, wealthy households discovered they could keep eating after dark. Beeswax candles and later gas lighting let aristocrats push their main meal hours later than farmers or laborers ever could. Eating dinner late became a way of showing you didn't have to rise with the sun for work. The habit trickled down over the following 2 centuries until it reached everyone. Meanwhile, factories were rewriting the clock completely. Mill towns in Lancashire, England, ran on whistles starting in the 1780s. Workers got one short break in the middle of a 12-hour shift, and that break became lunch. That gap was a scheduling compromise between machines and human stomachs. In the United States, this pattern reached children directly. In 1946, Congress passed the National School Lunch Act, guaranteeing a midday meal to students nationwide. For the first time, an entire generation grew up with a government-stamped eating schedule built into their day, 5 days a week, for 12 years straight. Now here's the part your body actually cares about. In 2012, researcher Satchidananda Panda at the Salk Institute ran an experiment on mice. One group ate whenever they wanted across a full day. The other ate the exact same calories, but only within an 8-hour window. The restricted group stayed leaner and avoided metabolic disease, even on a high-fat diet. Timing changed the outcome as much as the amount did. Human studies since then point the same direction. Insulin sensitivity runs higher in the morning and drops through the evening. A meal eaten at 7 a.m. and the identical meal eaten at 11 p.m. does not move through your body the same way. Your liver, your pancreas, and your fat cells run on roughly a 24-hour clock, and food eaten against that clock gets handled less efficiently. There's a social layer too. Researchers at Cornell, led by Barbara Feasey, spent years studying family dinners and found a consistent link between shared regular meals and lower rates of anxiety in kids. The meal mattered less than the fact that people showed up for it together at a predictable hour. 3 meals a day isn't written into your genes. It's a layered compromise built from Chinese harvest calendars, Benedictine prayer schedules, French candlelight, English factory whistles, and American school policy, with a circadian clock underneath quietly rewarding the parts that happen to line up with daylight. The Hadza never needed a clock for any of it. You do, because somewhere over 7,000 years, your ancestors traded a hunt-when-hungry existence for one built around a schedule none of them chose alone.